the nature of your emergency?
Welcome back to the Tactical Living Podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Welton, joined by Sergeant Welton. Clint, how are you?
I'm good.
You know, the craziest thing happened to me when I stopped working for somebody that literally made my life such a living hell that the moment I would wake up, I would dread the day. And there was a lot of unexpected healthy consequences that took place. And I've had a lot of conversations recently, mostly surrounding individuals that are in jobs that are so toxic. And I can understand being caught up in the loop of all of the excuses that take place as to why you ought to stay there. However, the reality is there's so many different options and opportunities out there in the world that I can tell you from somebody who's already been through that. What is it? 6 years, maybe 7 years, something like that. That I, I would have never gone back to how things were now that I know how things are now. And what I mean by that is, for me personally, I would never work for somebody else ever again. And I, now looking back, would have used the skills and the tools that I have now to be able to stand my ground and to be able to give the 2 middle fingers in a very classy way had I known the reality of things after I had left that job. And there are so many people, first responders especially, who don't realize the medical and health ailments that are taking place, chronic inflammation, especially in your mind and your body, simply because of the job that you're doing, even if everything seems like it's totally fine.
Yeah, and I see this with not saying it's like a toxic environment that like at my workplace, but people hold on to stress in different ways, and they could be on a shift where they don't get along with the people, the supervisory side. They battle with them all the time. There's so many different factors when you look into it, but we don't look at the internal aspects of it of, oh, I didn't sleep good, I never sleep good anymore, or I'm having stomach issues. And like I've talked with partners in the past, they go, it's chronic IBS is one of those things, or acid reflux that comes up all the time for them, and they go, well, that's just a normal thing. And I look at them, I go, is it though? And I think they hold on to it thinking like, well, this is just the normal. This is just the normal. So I'm not any different from that.
Yeah. And, a lot of first responders, they know that the job is physically demanding, but I think that a lot of fewer understand that the chronic stress, the sleep disruption, the irregular schedules, poor nutrition, repeated trauma exposure, it doesn't just affect your mood and your mental health, but it actually triggers a systemic inflammatory response. And this is something that can and usually does contribute to a lot of serious and even life-altering physical conditions. And we see that in a lot of the older, the older officers who they should be retiring in 5 years, and then they get medically retired because of the thing.
Yeah, and I think that, and we're not talking about, that lower back pain, or we're not talking about any of the joint stuff where through fights, I mean, that's stuff throughout your career, like you will get injured, stuff will happen. We're talking that inflammatory response when your body's saying, hey, something's not right here, because you're holding on to those stressors, you're holding on to, you fill in the blank here of what's going on, and you're never able to move past that.
The psychological concept I want to talk about today is allostatic load and systemic inflammation. And allostatic load refers to this cumulative wear and tear on your body that results from that chronic stress exposure over time. If you're a first responder, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And the body is repeatedly activated by the stress. So it's going to release your cortisol, your adrenaline, and your stress hormones. And I think that if you're not giving yourself adequate time to be able to recover, that immune system is going to begin to malfunction.
Yeah, when we're not recovering on a regular basis, and that's where I try teaching my guys all the time, is like, you need to go home and just chill. You need to find that outlet outside of your normal day-to-day, because when you're not giving that recovery process time, it's your body's just going to start holding you back more and more. Everyone thinks of me going to the gym all the time is great, and it definitely is, but shouldn't be your only outlet.
Well, and I want to push back a little bit on that too, because I've gone to the gym regularly for my entire adult life. right? And so I can tell you that there are many times where going to the gym on a regular basis actually heeds your recovery. And you know, we always think and we are told that like going to the gym is like the healthiest thing that you can do. But a lot of the times, if you're dealing with mental health stressors and you're adding on physical stressors, then it can do a lot more harm than good. And I have realized probably in the past 10 years or so that there are many times where I can still be consistent with my gym regimen. However, there are times where I also know like, oh shit, like I need to pull back because I'm feeling the tension and the stress in my shoulders. And it's this shoulder pain that won't go away. And, you know, I keep lifting and I keep going hard in the gym. However, if I allow myself to be able to do those less strenuous activities or to be able to change things up in a way in the gym to where it's not necessarily like me needing that full loaded progress and then me just being active instead, or having that mind body connection instead, it does help to be able to lessen those stressors.
Yeah, absolutely. Being able to have that and have those any experiences that you're able to incorporate to lessen those stressors is super important. And that's what I was saying is not only relying on one outlet is so it's important, because you don't want to have just that one thing, because there's just like we work out different parts of our body going to the gym, we want to work out different parts of our mind and our being in general to be able to build up that resiliency.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times too, we put the pressure on, I know for me, I put the pressure on myself to where if I'm not working out as hard, or I say to myself, like, man, I think my body needs this week to recover, to where I'm not working out. You know, we can start to have that negative self-talk and be so hard on ourselves. However, I think that too is an element of discipline when it comes to recognizing what your body is actually needing. And a lot of people don't realize maybe the adrenal fatigue that they're experiencing or that chronic inflammation. And maybe for you, it might look like this persistent fatigue that sleep just doesn't seem to fully resolve.
Yeah, when we start finding those avenues of being in tune with our body and knowing what's going on, it's like you eat something and you're like, oh, that didn't settle right. Our body's telling us, hey, you shouldn't have eaten that. And it's kind of adapting to it. It's like, well, next time when that comes up, I'm going to make a different option or take a different choice. When instead of eating this, I'm going to eat that. Something
else too that a lot of people don't pay attention to, or they fail to be able to lovingly point out in the people that they're around, is that I'm thinking of one person in particular who has frequent illnesses or a sense of recovery that just takes a lot longer than it used to. A lot of times you might not realize that stress that you're putting your body through, it is going to be able to kind of wreck your immune system to where it will be very difficult to be able to recover, not just with illnesses, but as I was saying before, with our workouts too.
Yeah, and when we start recognizing these little instances within our bodies are huge in telling us there's something going on, whether it's good, bad, or ugly. It's having those notions is there could be little signs on the onset, but if we keep ignoring those, they start progressing worse and worse.
You know, Clint, you recently had to fly to a political gathering, let's say, and something that you shared with me was the massive difference between the way that you prioritize your sleep as a medical necessity and not a personal preference versus the way that other people just wanted to go hard and hang out and stay out late. And it's very interesting to see that, because a lot of people don't realize that their lack of sleep priority is actually contributing to those chronic inflammation stressors.
Yeah, and that's something that we are really good at, because our sleep is so important to us, and we need to regularly prioritize our sleep. And I've seen this before, as someone says, I'm so tired all the time, and you say, well, what time do you go to bed and what time do you wake up? Well, why don't you go to bed earlier? If you have to wake up at this time, why don't you go to bed earlier? Oh, I would do anything except for that.
Yeah. Or they have bad sleep hygiene. And what I mean by that is, you know, I get on to people where where they'll have this conversation with me as well. And I ask them, like, what do you do before you go to bed? Oh, I scroll around on TikTok, and, I'm just going on Facebook, checking my messenger and watching TV, or even reading in bed. Like, there are a lot of different studies that you can look up yourself to see why all of those things are actually detrimental to your sleep.
Yeah. And when you start recognizing all these different avenues of how you can start improving your sleep and improving you're just having those healthy outlets and recognition of and being in tune with your body of what's going on, it can be a complete game changer to where you're not having those inflammatory responses towards anything.
Yeah, and addressing your nutrition, there are so many different foods that can be used as tools for recovery and not just performance, and anti-inflammatory foods especially. I think that our standard American diet, we've done such a bad job at using food for medicine.
Yeah, we have inflammatory diets, absolutely, for sure. Like, that's kind of what we've seen over the time, and because we get food for quickness and ease compared to actually the nutritional value.
I hope you've gotten some value out of today's episode. If you have, do us a favor, drop a review, subscribe down below, and as always, know that I'm sending you a long, tight hug from my home to yours.